Imagine a man so driven by vision and ambition that he conquered most of the known world before the age of 33. A man educated by Aristotle, crowned a god in Egypt, and feared from the shores of Greece to the banks of the Indus. This is the story of Alexander the Great, king, conqueror, visionary, and legend. Today we travel through time to uncover how a boy from the rugged hills of Macedonia became one of history's most iconic figures. This is not just a tale of battles and empires. It is the story of dreams, of legacy, of one man who dared to reach beyond the edge of the world. Alexander was born in 356 BCE in Pella, Macedonia. His father, King Philip II, was a cunning strategist and unifier of Greece. His mother, Olympias, a priestess of the cult of Dionysus, claimed her son was divine, the son of Zeus himself. From the very start, Alexander believed he was destined for greatness. While other boys played with toys, he trained with swords and studied Homer. His mind was shaped by the finest tutor of the age, Aristotle. Philosophy, logic, ethics, and natural science poured into the mind of the young prince. But Alexander was no mere academic. He was fiercely competitive, often seeking challenges to prove his worth. He once said, "I am not afraid of an army of lions led by a sheep. I am afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion." He, of course, intended to be the lion. Tragedy struck in 336 BCE. Philip was assassinated at a royal celebration. The power vacuum was immediate, and enemies circled like vultures. But Alexander acted swiftly. Within days, he eliminated rivals, secured the loyalty of the Macedonian army, and was crowned king. Still, Greece remained fragile. Some cities saw his youth as weakness. But Alexander shattered that illusion when he razed Thebes, a powerful city, to the ground. Its walls crumbled, its people enslaved. The message was clear: resistance would be met with ruin. Alexander's leadership was charismatic and ruthless. He unified the Greek world and inherited his father's dream, to invade the mighty Persian Empire. In 334 BCE, Alexander stood at the edge of Europe. He cast a spear into the soil of Asia and declared it land won by the sword. With an army of 40,000, he crossed the Hellespont into legend. At the Granicus River, Alexander faced his first true test. Persian satraps waited with cavalry and infantry. Against warnings, he charged into the river, leading his men personally. The battle was fierce, but Alexander's audacity overwhelmed the enemy. Victory at Granicus opened the gates of Asia Minor. City after city fell, some welcoming him as a liberator, others crushed under his siege engines. His reputation spread like wildfire. To the Persians, he was a threat. To the Greeks, a hero. To others, something more. In 333 BCE, at the narrow plains of Issus, Alexander met Darius III, king of Persia. Darius brought a massive army and confidence of empire. But Alexander had speed, tactics, and absolute control of his troops. As the battle raged, Alexander broke through the Persian lines and headed straight for Darius. The great king fled, abandoning his army, his wealth, and even his family. Alexander spared the royal women, treating them with dignity. It was both strategic and symbolic. The Macedonian king was not a brute, but a ruler with divine purpose. This battle sent shockwaves across the east. The King of Kings had fled. The world now looked to the young man from Macedonia as the rising sun. Alexander's next challenge was Tyre, a fortified island city with massive walls and a navy. Many would have turned away, but not Alexander. He ordered a massive causeway built from the mainland, turning the sea into a battlefield. It took 7 brutal months. The city fell, and its defenders faced the wrath of the conqueror. Then came Egypt. There Alexander was not resisted, he was welcomed. At the temple of Amun in Siwa Oasis, priests proclaimed him the son of Zeus. Whether he believed it or not, Alexander never denied his divinity again. In Egypt, he founded Alexandria, a city of light, learning, and trade. It would become the crown jewel of Hellenistic civilization. In 331 BCE, Alexander faced Darius again at Gaugamela. The Persians had chariots, elephants, and far superior numbers, but Alexander's tactics were masterful. He stretched Darius's lines, exploited weaknesses, and once again drove the king from the field. The Persian Empire was no more. Alexander entered Babylon in triumph, then Susa, then Persepolis. He set the palace of Persepolis ablaze, perhaps as revenge for the burning of Athens a century earlier. Or perhaps as a symbol that a new age had begun. With Persia conquered, most would have stopped. Not Alexander. He pushed east as to Bactria, Sogdiana, and finally India. At the Hydaspes River, he faced King Porus and his war elephants. The battle was brutal. Rain turned the field to mud. Elephants trampled men like insects. But Alexander triumphed again. And in Porus he found a noble enemy, one he chose to keep as ally rather than destroy. But his men had reached their limit. Exhausted and fearful of what lay beyond, they refused to march further. For the first time, Alexander yielded. They would return home, though not without hardship. Back in Babylon, Alexander set about building his vision, a fusion of East and West. He hosted mass weddings between Persians and Macedonians. He introduced Persian customs into his court. But not all welcomed this new order. Tensions rose. Friends turned to enemies. Plots were uncovered. His trusted general Clitus, who once saved his life, was killed by Alexander in a drunken rage. It haunted him for the rest of his days. When Hephaestion died in 324 BCE, Alexander wept openly. He demanded temples be built in his honor. His grief was unshakable. In 323 BCE, Alexander fell ill in Babylon. Fever, pain, and delirium consumed him. Some say it was poison. Others, malaria. Or perhaps it was the toll of years of war, grief, and unrelenting ambition. He died without naming a clear heir. When asked who should rule, he whispered, "To the strongest." His generals divided his empire, but none could claim his spirit. Alexander changed the world in just 11 years. He brought Greek ideas to the East and Eastern culture to the West. He inspired Caesar, Napoleon, and countless others. Cities still bear his name. Legends still echo his feats. And his dream of a world united beyond race and nation still haunts humanity. Alexander the Great did not just carve an empire. He carved his name into eternity. Subscribe for more.